Good evening, Yarnies. How is everyone tonight? Let me adjust my levels here. Sometimes that music seems to be a little loud. Check to see if this is updated. That is updated. I think we're good tonight. Let's see. Checking my usual before we get into this. We are live. I think we're good. Alrighty. So tonight we're continuing Granny Month. I wasn't on Sunday again. Had a somewhat busy weekend. Did a little more physical activities than I'm used to, so I was a little sore and very, very tired. But that was temperature blanket, so I can always catch up on that. That's not a big deal. So we didn't miss any actual Granny Month content. But we're back here, and tonight it's a little less complicated than Saturday's. And I don't have my sample on me. I don't know where it went. Little less complicated than Saturday's cherry blossom in the snow square. That was very involved. This one's a little complicated, not too bad. No color changes in this tonight. No color changes whatsoever. So that's one good thing. So tonight we are doing I'm calling this the spiral flower. The spiral flower is, and let me see if I can, we'll pull it up here in a second. It is from a YouTube channel called, it's a Spanish channel. It's a channel called Esperanza y Celia Rosas. I guess I pronounced that correctly. I don't speak Spanish. And yes, the video is all in Spanish. There is no written instructions on the YouTube video. But I watched it slowly, multiple times, slowed it down, watched segments at a time, and I figured out how to make it. So I have a written version of it. For my purposes, I don't think I would give out that pattern because I don't know if the YouTube channel is the original designer and maker of the square. But again, it's not my pattern. So I will show how to make it. You can use this as a reference if you need something in English. But we are going, let me check one thing. This is what we're making. We're making this lacy, three-dimensional spiral swirl in the center square, and very lacy for the outer three rounds. So I'm going to get my yarn. We're back to using cotton yarn. Because again, no color changes tonight. No cutting until the very end. All right, to start this, we're going to get a slip knot on our hook. And we will chain 3. And I got something on my finger. Let me use some hand sanitizer. I don't know what that is. Bear with me. Alrighty, actually, I will be right back. Sorry about that. Alrighty, we hadn't even started yet. So, start with a slip knot on our hook, and we're going to chain 6, 2, 4, and 6. And then we're going to slip stitch into our first chain to form a ring. Hey there, Cleamako, how are you? Let me zoom in a little bit more. So again, we're doing the spiral flower, and I don't know if you were here earlier when I first started. It is from a YouTube channel, and again, it is a Spanish language channel. No, I don't speak Spanish, but I want to credit them. Channel's name is Esperanza y Ana Celia Rosas, and there is no English instructions. There's no written instructions in any language that I can come up with, but I sat and watched and kind of translated by watching her what she was doing, and I figured it out. So we start with 6 chains, slip stitch to the first one to form a ring, and now we're going to do round 1. We're going to chain 1, and then into our ring we're going to put 16 single crochets. Real simple. Round 1 is super simple. I'm also stitching over my tail, so we do 16. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If that music's too loud, let me know. 7, 8, 9, 10. I gotta move some of these around because I'm running out of room. 10, 11, 12. Really move these around. We have 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 single crochets. Now I'm just going to go through and I'm going to space them around just so they're a little bit even. Doesn't have to be perfect because it will even itself out. So we have 16 16 single crochets. And now we're going to slip stitch into our first one. And that's round 1. Super easy. What I'm going to do right now, just so it's not in my way for the rest of it, I'm going to weave in the rest of this end a little more, and then I'm going to trim it. Oh, before I forget, Saturday, I forgot to even mention this. That's even a little loud for me. I got to turn my volume down slightly. Forgot to mention this, that Saturday was World Knitting Day, or International Knitting Day. Not that we knit in this channel, but it's an adjacent craft, so belated happy World Knitting Day. All right, so we've got our 16 single crochets into our ring. Round 2, we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to skip a stitch, and in the following stitch, we're going to put a single crochet. Chain 4, skip a stitch, and in the next stitch, put a single. You're going to repeat that all the way around. You should have a total of 8 of these chain 4 spaces. 2, 3, 4, skip a stitch, and in the next stitch, put a single. So far, real simple, nothing complicated with this. Stop counting. One extra thing. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, we're on the 8th one. When you get to the end, you're going to chain your 4, and then you're going to slip stitch into the same stitch you started the chain on. So it's going to be, it's not this stitch here. So you would think you would skip this and go in this. This is a false stitch. You're going to go right in there, basically into the, actually, no, you're not going to do a single. You're going to slip stitch into there. You want to go into the base. Technically, you could go into that first chain, but I'm going to go into the base. And that is round 2. Make certain that you have 8 of these chains, 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, what I was going to say, when we're done this square, your square is not going to look exactly like this. You're going to have you're going to see the spiral, but the outer ones are all going to look like a mangled mess. When we're done the square, I'm going to give a brief demonstration on how to block a square. This is cotton yarn, and I will explain how to block with cotton, how to block with acrylic or wool when we get there. So I'll do a little brief demo on that. So that was round 2. Round 3 is where the fun begins. So now for round 3, we're going to slip stitch into our next chain 4 space. So slip stitch over there. And now we're going to chain 3. So that was 1, 2, 3. And in this chain 4 space, you're going to put 7 double crochets. So your chain 3 counts as a double, and you're going to put 7 more. So think of it as 8. So you've got your chain 3, and then we're going to put 7 regular doubles. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, that's easy. Now I got to move my screen over so I can see the rest of my round. So now that we've done that, we're going to chain 1 and turn like as if it was a row. So we've turned, and into that very first stitch, we're going to put a single crochet and a half double crochet. So the very first stitch, remember, you had essentially 8 double crochets. Your very first one, because you've chained 1 and turned, you put a single and a half double. The next 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, are each going to get a double. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now you've got your chain 3 from when we first did this, when we started our pedal, I guess we're going to call it. You have your chain 3 here on the turning chain. Well, not really turning, your starting chain. So into the top chain of that chain 3 here, you're going to put a half double and then a single. Okay. Now you're going to chain 3, flip it over back to where you were, and then you've got your chain 3 here. You're going to go to your next chain 4 space from the previous round, and you're going to slip stitch into that space. That slip stitch there will force that to curl. And that is how we're going to do each of the 8 quote-unquote petals. So we're going to do that another petal again. So we've slip stitched into it. We're going to do chain 3, 2, 3. Then we're going to put 7 doubles into that chain space. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we got our 7 doubles, but then we also remember we started with a chain 3. So we've got 8 doubles there. We're going to chain 1 and turn. In our first stitch, we're going to put in a single and then a half double, both in that very first stitch. Make certain you got enough slack on your yarn. The next 6 stitches each get a double. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It is very elaborate, as you can see with my sample above me, but it's very lacy, but the center you've got this spiral. Looks like somebody twisted them, because you can arrange them however. I mean, yeah, and keep in mind, there was no English translation. I'm watching the video, she's speaking in Spanish and doing all of this, but she's going slow enough. So what I had to do is I had to stop and like, okay, she did that. And I wrote it down. Okay, she did that. Yeah. So I was translating it without even being a native, or even, not native, not even being a Spanish speaker. So yeah, it's very elaborate. Okay. So again, we've done our double crochets, 1 into each of the 6. And now we're at our chain 3. And in the top of that chain 3, the very top one, we're going to put in a half double and then a single. And after we do all of that, that's basically, we've made our petal. It's narrower here and it's wider. It's like an extended fan, basically, is what it is. And now you're going to chain 3, turn back over to where you were originally, and in this next chain 4 space, slip stitch. And that is petal number 2. When you first start, they're all going to look weird. It isn't until you do a couple more rounds after the petals. After you do all of the petals, the next couple rounds, it will start to look like something. Right now, it looks like a hot mess. Okay, we're going to do another petal. So we chain 3, and then we put 7 doubles into that chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Chain 1 and turn. And before we do the next, we're going to an ad, and I think it went to an ad already. So I will be right back. And welcome back. Thanks again for sitting through that ad. So, to recap of what we did before we went to ad, we chained 3, 7 doubles into that chain space, and then we've chained 1 and turn. Now we're ready to do the rest of the petal. So in your first stitch, we're doing a single crochet and then a half double. And in the next 6, each 6 of those, each one, get 1 double crochet. So there was 1, 2, whoops, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And in our chain here from the beginning of the petal, the very top chain, we're going to put in a half double. And that chain's a little on the snug side, so I'm trying to get it in there however I can get it in. I really did a number on that one. Oh, here we go. So we do a half double in there, and in the same stitch, we do a single. Now we chain 3, turn the work back over, move the petal out of the way to find the chain space from the next one, and slip stitch into it. And that is how we're going to go all the way around. So I'll do another one with you. I'm actually going to do them all, obviously, but I'll walk you through it. So we're going to chain 3, so that's 1, 2, 3, and into that chain space, do 7 doubles. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Essentially, wait a minute, let me double check that. Essentially, your petal is halfway done at that point. Chain 1 and turn. First stitch gets a single, and the first stitch also gets a half double. You're doing an increase because you're putting 2 stitches in 1 stitch. You're increasing in the beginning and at the end. The next 6 each get a double, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and number 6. And then in our chains at the end, at the very top chain, it's going to get a double. I mean, not a double, a half double, and then a single. And again, you're increasing there. You're putting more stitches in there. And now you're going to chain 3, because this chain 3 is what's going to cause the curl, and it's going to bring you back to the row before and slip stitch to join. So the next 4, I'm not going to go through every stitch. I'm just going to do them. I kind of got to count somewhat so I remember. Made my chain, oh, we're good. Thought I made my chain a little too tight there, but okay. Once you do this a few times, you can make the petal pretty quick, like I just did. And they're all the same. So it's kind of like you're incorporating rows and rounds together in this, because you do the flip. Come on, find the right spot. That, and then that. Flip it back over. And I got 2 more petals to make. When we finish the last petal, I'll show you what we're going to end up doing to join. We'll have a whole lot more slack on that yarn. It's going, I'm using it up real quick. And that. Now I'm going to be making my last petal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, our last petal. And it doesn't look like much right now. It's all floppy. It will come together. Okay, and then I'm going to do my last part of this petal. Okay. Finish this petal here. Come on. If the yarn didn't split, it's because I'm using this cotton yarn and it's on the splitty side. Then we're going to chain 3 like we normally do. And now the way you're going to join is, let me just double check. Yeah. What we're going to do is, let me just double check one thing. Let me check my sample real quick. That ain't going to help. Actually, yeah, it will. It's been a little while since I made my sample. Yeah. Okay, that's what we're going to do. So after we make our last petal, we're going to go around where we started right here. This was our first petal we made. Right here, we're going to put in a half double. And for some reason, it's a half double in that round. I don't know why, but it works. Okay. So you're starting to get your spiral. It's not really doing much right now, but we still have 3 more rounds to do. So round 4 is we're going to chain 1. And then I got to remember where we put this. Okay. So we're going to flip it over. And those chain spaces that when we form the petals, remember we did, when we finished the petal, we chain 3 and then slip stitched to the next one. That's what we're going to work in. We're going to work in those chain 3 spaces. So after we've joined, we've chained 1. And then on the back side, you're going to single crochet into the next chain space of the petal. So there's the curved petal, the chain space that was associated with that petal. We're going to do a single crochet, and then we're going to chain 5. Then we're going to flip the next petal forward, and then to that chain space, do a single. Chain 5. And you're going to do that all the way around. So there'll be a single crochet into each chain space, and then chain 5 in between. 3, 4, 5. The round we're working on now is the beginning of our 3, 4, 5 of our lacy filigree type border. I guess you would call it a border. The rest of it is pretty much going to be chains, single crochets, and picots for the rest of the pattern. 5. And you're going to do this a total of 8 times because you have 8 petals. And we're getting close to where we started. So we started here, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes. Kind of difficult to see. So there was a single crochet into that. This is where we started here. And then we are going to, hold on a second, I'm going to make certain I have enough chain spaces. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, I didn't do the last 5 chains. Duh. 3. That's a weird chain. Okay, let's do it again. 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we're going to slip stitch into our single crochet from the first one of the round. We're going to pull this loop out just so we can see. We're on the back side here. And what we've made, let me move that out of the way. We've made these chain 5 spaces. There's a chain 5 space, then a single crochet, chain 5 space, single crochet, so on. And you should have 8 of those. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Now it's starting, just doing that, it's starting to form the spiral. You can always go and fluff these and arrange those when we get to that point. When we're done, when we start to block them. Okay, that was round 4. Just make my loop a little shorter. Round 5, we're going to chain 2. And then in this chain 5 space here, we're going to put in a double crochet. Chain 1. We do the double crochet. I never crochet again. Chain 1. And now we're going to single crochet. Is that right? Again, I can't look back at written patterns because there is none. Let me look back at my sample. It's kind of like we're testing out a pattern together. I don't know why there was a double. Chain 2, double crochet, previous row. Okay. Chain 2. Okay. You think I'd be prepared? I was prepared, but uh, chain 2, double crochet in the chain. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go with it. We're gonna go with it. It's what I saw in the video, and chain 1, single crochet. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Okay, so to recap, we've chain 2, double crochet into the chain space of the next one, the one with the one we made here. That was a double crochet, chain 1, and then single crochet. And now we're going to chain 3 to make a picot. Chain 3, and then you're going to slip stitch into your very first chain of that grouping. And now we're going to chain 5. Come on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then in the next chain space, single crochet. Then we're going to do a chain 3 picot. 1, 2, 3. So there's our 3 chains. Slip stitch into the first chain of that grouping to form the picot. And then we're going to chain 5. And in the same space here, we're going to put another single crochet and then a chain 3 picot. 1, 2, 3. Slip stitch into that. Oops. Form the picot. What we made right there, and it's not going to look it's going to look a little weird at first because we did a single crochet into this space, then we did a picot on top, chain 5, single crochet and a picot. That will be our corner. That's every other of these spaces from the row below. So after the picot, we're going to chain 5. And in the next chain space, put a single crochet. And pretty much anytime you do a single crochet, you're going to do a picot on top of it. So chain 3, slip stitch into the first of those chains to form the picot. And now we're going to chain 5. Go to the next loop chain space, do a single crochet, and now we're going to do a picot. So 1, 2, 3, slip stitch to make the picot. And in this same, we got to chain 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. In that same large chain space from the previous row, put in a single and then a picot. And see how I said that it's going to look like a big mess because everything doesn't really have any body to it yet? We'll get there. So after the picot, we're going to chain 5. 3, 4, 5. And in the next one from the previous row, single crochet. On the top of the single crochet, gets a picot. I know this part might seem more confusing than the spirals. So we've done the picot, we're going to chain 5. Move to the next chain space from the previous row. Put in a single and then a picot on top of that, chain 5, and in that same space from the previous row, gets a single and then a picot. That's a corner, believe it or not. It's because it's so lacy. Now we're going to chain 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. In the next chain space from the previous row, gets a single and then a picot. Chain 5. Go to the next chain space from the previous row, put in a single and a picot. Chain 5. And in that same space, gets a single and a picot. And I think we're near the beginning already. Let me just double check something. I might have to do this round over again. Let me see something. Okay, there. Yeah, that's a corner. That's a side. That's a corner. That's a side. Corner, side, corner, side. Yeah, okay. Now what we have to do, oh, I know how to do that. Okay. So after we've done our last picot, we're going to chain 2. Yeah, I don't know what that double crochet was at the beginning. That might have been an oopsie, but it is what it is. We'll deal with it. So we've chained 2, and now we are going to ignore all of this here. We're going to chain, not chain, we're going to double crochet. So again, to backtrack, we've done our last picot, we've chained 2, and now we're going to do a double crochet into that single crochet under that first picot. I hope I haven't confused everybody right now. The reason we double crochet instead of chain 5 is the double crochet counts as 3 chains, but we have 2 chains here to begin with. Now we are in the center of this space. So that's what puts us in the right spot. Okay, last round. We're going to chain 1. We're going to single crochet into that same chain. Okay. And now we're going to do a picot. 1, 2, 3. So there's our picot. I'm going to chain 5. Okay, Clemiko, catch you later. 3, 4, and 5. And then in the next chain space, we're going to do a single. And on top of that single, do a picot. And now we're going to chain 5 again. And we've come to this corner here. You could tell it's a corner because if you go down 2 rows, to this row, we've got 2 singles into that same space. And those picots are kind of a little bit closer to each other. So into that corner chain space, put in a single and a picot. Chain 5. And into that same chain space, put in another single and a picot. So we've done our corner. Chain 5. And find the next space, gets a single and a picot. Chain 5. Go to the next chain space, put in a single and a picot. And then we're going to chain 5. 5. And I will continue this when we come back from another ad. I'll be back. And welcome back, everybody. Thank you for sitting through that ad. So let's continue where we left off. So we've chained 5, and in the next chain space, the previous row, which is a corner, we're going to put in a single and then a picot. And now chain 5. And in that same space, do a single and a picot. Believe it or not, we got a side here. It doesn't look like much here. We're going to chain 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. The next chain space, put in a single, and on top of that single, put a picot. Oops. Let me do those chains for that picot one more time. Come on. Hook's not working with me tonight. Chain 5. And in the next chain space, do a single and a picot. Chain 5. When we get to the next one, it's a corner because we've got 2 picots right here. You can kind of see they're kind of close, but also the singles that they're attached to are on the same round, the same loop or chain space from around below. So into that chain space, put in a single and a picot. Chain 5. And in the very same chain space, put in a single and a picot. And continue it around. So that was a corner. Now our sides on this round, there are 2 chain spaces that we're working on. So first we have to chain 5. Go to the first chain space, put in a single and a picot. Chain 5. And in the next chain space, put in a single and a picot. A lot of repeating of this. I've lost track how many corners we've made, but that's okay. Chain 5. We're at a corner again. And into that corner space, gets a single and a picot. By the time you're done with this, you're going to be tired of making picots. Chain 5. And in the very same one, do a single and a picot. Let me just look ahead to see. Okay. We are pretty much done this row. Let me check one thing. Okay. So we're coming up to our last little segment. So you're going to chain 5. And in this chain space here, actually, no, we're not going to go into the chain space. We've already worked in the chain space. So we chain 5, and we're going to slip stitch into the single crochet that's under this picot. Because on this round, let me see if I can show this. The corners have 2 picots. Well, the sides on this round will have 2. Those are the 2 picots for the sides. And these are the 2 picots for the corner. Well, this side here already has 2 picots. And we're just making the chain space. So we've chained to the 5, and we're going to slip stitch into that single crochet. And that's pretty much it for the square. Chain 1, and we're going to cut and pull through, and it doesn't look like much because it's not blocked. Something this lacy needs to be blocked so it can look something like that. So we're going to show how to block. If you can figure that out, which was kind of a headache, I think it was less of a headache than the cherry blossom from the other night. I'm going to get, you don't need anything special to block. I got a piece of upholstery foam. Let me clear some lint off of there. And I'm going to lay my square out, and I'm going to kind of fluff it the way I want it. And I want to make certain that these inner petals are all kind of spiraled somewhat together. The blocking isn't really going to affect that too much, but I want to get it as close as possible to what it's going to be. That can always be adjusted once it's done blocked. So we're going to start in the center and work our way out. And I've got T-pins. You can use whatever pins that you have. I would suggest use something that's not going to rust, because you're going to use water. If it's cotton, actually if it's a natural fiber, if it's cotton or wool, you're going to use water. Actually, you use steam for acrylic, but we'll get there. So I'm going to find the center of our side, and I'm going to put a T-pin, or whatever pin you have. Let me see if I can get this on screen. I'm going to put it in this middle picot here, just to hold it. And I'm going to pull this, but I don't want to stretch it all the way out. And I'm going to find the middle picot, which is this one here. Get it roughly how you want it. And then do the same thing for the sides. And I'm doing the middle of each side. And then what I'm going to do is, remember, there's picots on the corners here. Position them, and if it's stretched out a little bit more, you're not going to really stretch it too much. You want to give it some stretch to keep it shaped. It will come back, so it's not going to be totally stretched out. And you're going to be pinning these in place. And I'm going the inner round first. I'm not really doing anything to the center one, because that doesn't really need to be blocked too much. Hey there, Seagam. You scared me because I wasn't looking at the screen. How are you? So I've blocked. I want this block. Okay, I've blocked the inner round, which is actually round 5 of when we were stitching it. Okay, now we're going to do round 6. And this time I'm going to start with the corners. You can also adjust those single crochets, since they're around that chain, they slide a little bit. You can always adjust them however you need to be. I'm just going to go and do the corners. You want to do this somewhat evenly. Get them all displayed out nicely. So those are the corners. And now I'm going to do the same thing for the picots on the sides. And you can always move the pins and adjust as needed. Yes, I am crafting wrong. Actually, no, I don't know if I'm crafting wrong. You weren't here earlier, Seagam. This square I got off of YouTube. It's all in Spanish, and there's no written instructions. So, and I don't know Spanish. So I had to watch the lady make it and stop and start and stop and start and write down what she was doing. So this is translated from Spanish. Okay. If you want, you could also do your corner chains here. Okay. You can always play around with it to make it as square as possible. And then if it's cotton, wool, anything that's a natural fiber, what I would suggest to do, you have it pinned in place, and you can, again, now you can fluff your spiral. Why isn't that? I have an issue with that one. I don't know why that one isn't laying the right way. Anyway, so if it's a natural fiber, take water, and I got it in a spray bottle, and we're going to spray your square. It doesn't have to be super saturated, but damp enough. This method will not work with acrylic. It only works with natural fibers because acrylic is not going to absorb the water. And you let it sit. You let it sit till it's dry, and even after it's dry, still let it sit. And I don't know why I might have joined that wrong. Yeah, I might have actually really crafted wrong with that one, but considering it was in Spanish originally, you let it sit, let it dry, and even then just let it dry. Couple days, I would recommend. And then once it's dry, then when you take it off of, you take the pins out. This was stretched to about that size. It will come back. It's not going to stay stretched out, especially with cotton. I use cotton here. Cotton is not going to be super stretchy because cotton itself is not super stretchy. Now, if you made this with acrylic, still pin it out that way, you would steam it. You need some heat to steam it. So that would help keep the stitches in the proper spaces that you need them. So that is the spiral flower. Again, that's what I'm calling it. Let me see. And my Spanish is horrible. It says flor, which I'm assuming is flower, Flor. And remolino, Remolino. I don't know what that means. Let me Google what that means. I should have done that originally. Remolino. Oh, it means swirl. Okay, so I learned something. So it is a swirl flower, or I'm calling it a spiral. And again, samples above me, and it's right here too. So you could make a bunch of them. In the video, I didn't do this part, but in the video, she takes a few of them and joins them together. So it's a very lacy, three-dimensional, cool looking pattern. Why are you so darn good at making things? I don't know. It's just the way it is. All right. So that actually didn't take as long as I thought it was. I thought it was going to take much longer. But I'm going to give a sneak preview of Thursday's square. I'm calling this the small granny flower. Or the small flower. It is from a YouTube channel called Crochet Millie, M-I-L-I. There's no instructions on it. There's no speaking. Actually, no. Take that back. There's no speaking, but there are written instructions on screen. I think, yeah. And this is a little bit more simple. And I like the flower, but I really like this border here. It looks like a lattice type border. The border is easy. The whole thing of this one is super, super easy. Even the flower is pretty easy. So that is Thursdays. We're doing this simple little small flower. And then Saturdays even easier. Saturdays is from a channel called Hooked by Robin. Yes, this one is very pretty. Very simple. This next one for Saturday is Hooked by Robin. I recommend checking out her YouTube channel. She's got really, really good, interesting not just squares, just stitches. I like the way she explains things. It's English. She's actually from England. She's got an English accent, but she uses American crochet terms. So there's no confusion with all of that. And this one is super easy, and I really like this one. This one is the popcorn flower. Real simple to do. Super simple to do. And it's not overly 3D, but it uses popcorns, obviously. When she was making hers, she was joining as she was going with her squares. So if you want to see that, when we do that on Saturday, again, the link will be in the description. But that one's super, super easy. And believe it or not, these are the last two flowers. Hey there, Anna. Actually, yes, we did finish. I'm not finished the stream yet. I'm still going to be on the stream. But I showed how to make the example, but it's in yellow. And I did have a little bit of a boo-boo, and I don't know where I messed up. But again, like I explained, when I started doing this tonight, the original, where I got the pattern from, hey there, Fairy Dust, where I got the pattern from is a YouTube channel, but it's in Spanish. And there is not even written Spanish instructions. So I had to watch it, and as I'm watching it, looking what she's doing carefully, and then translate it. So that's what we did tonight. So it looks more difficult than it is, even though I don't know. Again, I messed up there. I'm probably the only one that's going to know that it's messed up, but I can always go in and fix it. But that's the spiral flower. Like I was saying, this will be for Thursday. A real simple flower square with a really neat looking border. And then Saturdays is from Hooked by Robin, the popcorn square. These are the last two flower squares of the month. Granny month is not over. Granny month will go through the month, but these are the last two flower squares because I haven't made the samples yet. But for the last 2 weeks, we're going into, this is the flora part of the garden. The last 2 weeks, we're going to go into the fauna, meaning the animals. Animals, I mean, they're technically animals. We were going to be doing 2 different butterfly squares. We're going to do a dragonfly square. We're going to do a really cute ladybug square and a really, really cute snail square. I'm going to tell you now, I'm not going to tell you what it is, but the first, even though it's not June, the first is a Saturday, so I don't want to start what I'm doing in July until the first full week. So the 1st of July, we're going to have an extra bonus stitch. It's not a square, but it's related to what we're doing. So Saturday is a little surprise, and it's a really cool looking stitch. So that's what we have there. I am going to do a little something different tonight, since we've got some time. I'm going to have some show and tell. Keep in mind, just a heads up, starting in July, Thursdays in July, I am doing Throwback Thursday, which everybody on the internet does a Throwback Thursday somehow. My Throwback Thursday, we're doing vintage projects and patterns from the 40s and 50s so far. I already have a coaster pattern picked out and a doily pattern picked out. And then some of those Thursdays, Grammy has I purchased a vintage, and I mentioned this the other day on stream. I purchased a vintage pattern book of edgings. Along with these, there's a fourth one. She has it. She's going to go through and choose some to her liking. I have no idea. I haven't even looked at the book. She's going to choose a few. She's going to tell me which ones to do on those nights that we do the mystery edgings. And I will look at them, and I'll find out about them when you find out about them. I won't do it in advance. But what I will do for edgings, since edgings usually use the crochet thread, I will use worsted weight yarn so you can see what I'm doing. Any of the other vintage ones that call for crochet thread, I will do my sample in crochet thread, but on stream, I'll use worsted weight yarn. So you can see what I am doing. So, show and tell, besides the pattern books, I bought something. Grammy has one in a different colorway, but it's the same yarn. And it's a little pricey, but it's not too pricey. If you want to step out of your comfort zone or try something new, a different fiber, if you are able to order this, I know in the US you can get it on Amazon. There are probably other sites. I think this is originally, if I remember correctly, this is made in Turkey, where a lot of yarn is made in Turkey. This is a brand called Yarn Art, and you can't really see the line because it's in gold. It says Flowers Alpaca. Yes, folks, we're playing Stump the Chump because the instructions in vintage patterns sound complicated. Yes, she mentioned that some of the patterns in the vintage book are complicated. That's part of the mystery and the experience. So you're going to watch me struggle. I struggle with a pattern I've already made a sample with, so you're going to watch me struggle. So, again, the Flowers Alpaca is 20% alpaca and 80% acrylic. I don't know what I'm going to do with this yet. They come in all different colorways. I think the one Grammy has is like green, and then there's purple in the center, which is really pretty. They've got all different ones. This one caught my eye for some reason. I just really liked the blue, and then it goes into this beige, into this, I don't know what stone color in the center. It's like almost gray. But if you were here, I wish they had, well, that's not appropriate. I was going to say Feel-O-Vision, but I wish you were able to touch this. This is super, and everybody does this. All the crocheters and knitters on YouTube, they always take their yarn and it's so soft. Greens and purples, and it is drop dead gorgeous. It's the same yarn, it's just a different colorway than what I have, and it is so soft. It's the alpaca in there, and yeah. So I treated myself again. I don't know what I'm gonna make with it. Oh, okay. I don't have a picture of hers, but I will actually bring it up on Amazon, and I will show you the colorway that she has if I can find it. This listing doesn't have it. Oh no. Okay, what I'm going to do real quick, and I'm going to move that there. Okay, so this is the one that I got. They don't have names for their colors. They just call this 417. They have numbers. The one that Grammy has, I don't see on here. And actually, before we do any of that, we're going to have a ad break here in a few minutes. So, well, when we come back from the ad, we'll go through a bunch of these colors. I'm not going to go through all of them. I would like, yeah, definitely. Send it to me on Facebook if you don't mind. If you have a picture of it, yeah. But they have a bunch of other ones. Yeah. And again, this isn't the only seller that sells it. I think you can get it on other websites too. It's just not on Amazon. Again, the brand name is Yarn. The company's name is Yarn Art, and the line is called Flowers Alpaca. So, like, um, yeah, I'll show a bunch of these other ones when we come back from our ad, and I'll be right back. All right. Thank you everybody for sitting through that ad. I appreciate it. It really helps. Um, all right, so let's look through some of these here on Amazon. So we got these different colors. I'm going to look at a few of them. I like the yellow that goes into the purple. They got some more pastel ones. They got some neutrals. Really cool color combinations on some of these. Like that blue, that seafoam blue that's there, that's really nice. There's some browns and greens. That one's kind of wild with the gray and the pink. So they got all different, the hot pink. So pretty colors. And then the one that Grammy got, this is, oh, I gotta move my thing. This is the one that Grammy got. The green into the purple, which is really, really pretty. So that is the Flowers Alpaca by Yarn Art. Again, I'm not sponsored. It's just something I liked. I saw hers and I'm like, ooh, I've been eyeballing them for a while. So I was decided, yep, it's time to get one. Again, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. In addition, and I got this a few weeks ago, and I think I showed it to you on stream. Actually, over a month ago, I think. I did get some more. Oh, those actually are similar colors in the blue family. I did get some of that facets yarn, that roving style yarn that I made those shawls out of before, but in this colorway. So that's an old, got that a while ago. That's something new. And then the other thing I got, and I'm going to demonstrate it here on stream. I am by means no expert in this. No expert at all. I'm a novice. So a while ago on the Discord, this is the end of April, I had some viewing parties on the Discord where we watched some YouTube videos, a series of videos over a few nights on the process of how they make yarn from animal, either sheep or alpaca, to the finished yarn. I'm not making yarn, but I'm going to show something as a practice. I've been saving my little bits and scraps from projects that I'm doing. This is all acrylic. Okay, so this is technically not the way you make yarn, because it already is yarn. But just so I can get the hang of it and the practice, so I've saved a bunch of my scraps, and I've cut them up. Even if I had like a piece that was like a foot or so, I cut it up into smaller, manageable pieces. And I bought myself, the same time I bought that nice alpaca yarn, I bought these small hand cards. Technically, these are actually dog grooming brushes, but they work the same way. They've got very fine teeth, and they're angled. And it's inexpensive, because I'm not going to buy actual cards. And I'm going to take this yarn, these little bits of yarn, and I'm going to open up the fibers, untwist them basically with the cards, and fluff it up, put some air into it. And this is somewhat processed. And I did a whole bunch of them the other night. This is from a small handful of yarn. And I've mixed them. You can see all the different colors in there. And again, I'm still going to process this again. And now I've got some fiber that didn't cost me anything at all. And I need to get back into practicing with my drop spindle and my electric spinning wheel. And I've spun acrylic yarn before. At the craft store I did buy, it was a big, I don't know if well, that craft store doesn't carry it anymore. It's kind of yarns in general kind of go in and out of favor. Like worsted weight's always going to be around, but some of these other yarns are going to be around for a couple years and then you don't see them anymore. Like 20 some years ago, you saw a lot of eyelash yarn, a lot of the decorative fringy type yarn. You don't really see that in the craft stores anymore. Well, a few years ago, actually a year ago, there was really big jumbo roving yarn. And roving yarn, again, it doesn't have a lot of twist to it. And if you pull on it, it's going to come apart. Well, they had jumbo roving, and it was 2 pieces of roving that were gently twisted, very loosely. Well, I was able to untwist it easily. And I took that, and I was pulling it apart, and used that. Technically, it was already yarn, and it was very fluffy to begin with. And that's what I practiced spinning on. And I love doing that. So this is kind of along the same lines. I've just taken little scraps, and now I can choose what color I want. And I'm not hand dyeing anything, because it's whatever I have. And I feel like, okay, I want some of this brown color and some blue, and a little pink. I can make my own color combination. And then after it's carded, it will open up the fibers, and then I can take that and spin it and make totally new yarn. I don't think it's going to be enough really to make anything a large project, because again, I'm hand doing it, but you never know. So I'm saving all my little scraps. No knots. If I have an actual knot in there, I don't want the knot because it'll get caught in my card. No knots. So I'm going to show you how to do this. I'm not going to use the black yarn because you won't be able to see it. I'm going to use the blue. And again, I'm no expert on this. I watched this off of a couple YouTube videos. And it's a good way for somebody who's interested in getting into the process. You don't got to spend a lot of money. You can also use a hairbrush that has wire bristles, but make sure they're all metal. Some of them will have like a little plastic, little rounded piece on the end. You don't want those because they can come off. These were sold as hand carders, but technically they actually say on here something about paws or whatever, so it's for animals. Anyway, so I'm going to take my bit of yarn, a bunch of strands together. About halfway, I'm going to hold them. I'm going to hold my card here. Now, the angles of these bristles are angled this way. The tines go in that fashion. So I'm going to hold the handle here. They go towards the handle. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to drag it across. This works better if the card is in my lap. But you can already see the twist is coming out. The strands are opening. That's what we want. Oh, take that out. Do a bunch of this. Bunch of times to open it up most of the way. And you're going to have some fluff in there. That's fine. You want the fluff in there. And then flip it over and do it the other end of it. You don't want your pieces of yarn to be too long, which this beige or tan one might be a little on the long side. But let me do those separate. And we're only using one card here at the time, at the moment. These are called hand cards. So it's opened up. It's not opened all the way. What we're going to end up doing is we're going to keep putting it on here and getting it mostly in there. You don't want to pack it too full. So I'm just going to load some more in there. And again, I am no expert in this at all. Some of this is just trial. And when I'm pulling them, I'm not holding this super tight. I'm adding some pressure. But when I pull it, it's going to allow some of those fibers to come out. Just like that. Because you want to open up the fibers and get the fiber in there. Okay? So let's start with that. Then we hold this here. we take the other one. It's kind of hard to show on screen, but we're not going to mash the teeth into each other. You're going to take the teeth of your other one and barely graze the top of it to grab the fiber. And you should have very little fluff in this card. Most of it's going to stay in this one. Yes, there is some fluff there, but a lot of it's still here. You're going to keep doing this. I probably have too much fluff in this one. But I can see some of these here are not opened all the way, so I'm going to move it and put it into a position where they can be opened. They're on the edges. Try to push it in there however I can. And you saw that was just a little bit of tan yarn and a little bit of blue. You can't even see any blue in here. There is blue in there. And then you're going to keep doing this. And then what you can do is, if you want to take it off, once you've done it a while, take this edge of this card. Remember, this is the card you put the fiber into first. This is the one you're carding with, and you're holding this one still. You're not really doing that. You're just doing this. And then you could take that edge and put it here at this edge here and flick it off. That came out pretty much clean. It's all on here. You could take this off, and you can always card this again, which I'm going to. I'm going to card it a few times. But after you do it a few times, you can, obviously I can put more on there. Then you could imagine this had more fluff into it. You could roll it up, and this is a small because they're really small cards. You can roll it up that way and then spin it from the end like that. This is called a roll-lag. Or, there are other ways of doing it. You can roll it up the other way and spin it the other way. So, I've been playing around with these. I find that this is very somewhat relaxing, but it's you definitely get a physical workout. Your arms start to feel it. And again, you're not mashing them together. You're grazing the top, kind of like this, just to align those. Not align. You're not aligning. You're opening up the fiber. So let's say I want to. Actually, there's some I don't know. But how did I get dust in there? This is acrylic. This is not. It feels like this is like sheep wool because I've got little bits of stuff in there. Oh, I think what it was. This yarn had some flecks of things. It was a flecked yarn, so there's some little fibers. So now I'm going to take this, and then I can pretend that this is wool. It's kind of what you would do with actual wool. And you're going to load it back up, and I can card it again until I get it the consistency I want, opened up enough, and I wouldn't add new colors that haven't been opened yet. But if I had, actually, I do have some color. So let's add some pink into it. So I've got some pink here. So if I want to blend my own colors, that's mostly like a whitish beige. There was blue in there, but I don't see any blue in that. But I'm going to take this, it's got some pink in it, and maybe some, I don't know what else is in there. So I'm going to take pink and just put some pink throughout. And then I know I got some green. So I got some green that I already processed. Let's add some green there. You could do the same type of thing. They have things you can purchase called a blending board. It's basically about the size of a piece of paper. It's about similar dimensions, but it's similar type material. It's got all those tines in it. It's carding cloth. That's what they call it. You can make your own also. And you do the same thing, and you just put your color wherever you want it. You can add things to it, and then you can card it off of there, and then get real creative with what yarn. You can personalize your own yarn. Again, this is all acrylic yarn that's cheap Actually, it's so cheap, I didn't pay a cent for it. It's all my scraps from, it's actually scraps from things I've done here on stream. So let's add some of this fluff. Do I have any other colors in here? I've got a lot of whites and pinks in here. I don't really have much of anything else so far because I had a lot of pink, because I use a lot of pink on stream, because you can see it on stream. So I've got a lot on there. So now, yeah, there's a bunch in there, but I'm opening up that fiber more and more. And you kind of get the idea. I like the sound of it. Can you hear that? I don't know if you can hear it. So get to a point, okay, that's kind of opened up. Then I can take this and go, most of it came off. I didn't do it 100%. Didn't do it super correct. Again, I'm still learning. And now I'm going to pull off this. It should come off somewhat in one piece. So I've got a little, they call this, I don't know, yeah, I think they call this a bat. And then you could take that, and like I said, roll it up into a rolag. And then there's a way of spinning. Let's pretend I have a spinning wheel here, and you pull off a little bit, and you spin from that, and then this all gets twisted into a new yarn. You spin off the end, and imagine, I don't know if you could see. You could see the colors that would form. I'm actually twisting it right now, and you're making brand new yarn. Pretty cool. So that's my new toy. And I was making baskets like I the other week. Well, now I've got a basket for my carded fiber. Now I got to make more baskets to organize everything else. Again, I'm no expert. It's trial and error that I'm coming up with. I'm saving, and I've got a couple people I know, actually Grammy and Cleamico. They're going to save if they, oh, excuse me, that was rude. I didn't mean to belch. If they remember, and if not, that's fine. Save any little tiny little scraps that they possibly can't use in any of the project. I'll put them into my bag, and then I'll make some kind of cool, funky yarn out of it. And who knows, if I make enough of it and it's decent, I might make something on stream with that yarn that I make. But that's way, way, way in the future. All right. So technically, now these are not real cards. They do say if you had real cards, let me preface this. Okay, modern cards are going to be probably stainless steel. The old cards that weren't stainless steel, the cloth, you see the black part, this is rubber. But the old type was made out of leather. And what they always used to say, and again, you weren't using acrylic back then, they would say that you take your cards and you put them together like this, and you leave a little bit of the sheep wool in there because the lanolin would help prevent your bristles or tines from rusting, which makes sense. But nowadays, modern ones are stainless steel. But I can't even do that because they don't stick together because it's rounded. Because it's not technically not a carding brush, but can work as a carding brush. I think that's it for tonight. Again, to recap, I'm not going to show the yellow one, but, oh, it's right there. We did our swirl flower. And just, again, to show you what's coming in the future, Thursday we're doing the small flower. That's what I'm calling it. And then Saturday, I really like this one. I think out of all the ones that I've done or will be doing this month, the water lily, which, to refresh everyone's memory what the water lily looks like. That's the water lily. I think the water lily and the popcorn flower, these are my two favorites to do and how they look. But that will be it for tonight. I need to check something real quick. I think we are going to go and raid somebody. Oh, I'm glad you were here too, Anna. You're always welcome. And let's see. Okay, I know who we're going to go and raid. We are going to go raid Mr. Drew. He is, I don't know exactly what he's doing, but he says he's finishing up on some whips. So again, I will be on Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Everybody, check out the Discord, check out the YouTube. Everybody have a good evening and happy crafting. And if you want, you can stick around for the raid. We're going to go and pop on over and see what he's up to. I will chat with y'all later.